How's it going, everybody? Back finally with a brand new video. Apologies for the delay in uploading content. I've just been super busy, and today is finally the day that I've been able to get out. As you can see, it's absolutely gorgeous here today. All the snow seems to have gone. So yeah, that'll have rejuvenated the forest a little bit. Today's video, we're going to be talking about something that I know has been, very requested. People are keen to know my views on this, and that is my friends from up there, UFOs, and how, in my humble opinion, I think they might have a link to the mythological dragons. So if that says that's something you're interested in learning more about, please stick around. Today's topic, I will do my absolute best to try and make this topic flow, make coherent sense, and not just babble on about nonsensical rubbish, because I've a lot to say today. Yesterday, when I sort of had this revelation, all these ideas came flooding into my mind about aliens and maybe they're linked to dragons. Obviously, the first people I told were my family, and my sister was really the only one who managed to sort of stay the course and really hear me out. I was on a break from work, and I was at home for about 3 hours, and 2 of those hours I don't even know where they went because we were in such deep discussion about it. My dad switched off fairly early, and my mum, I could tell about halfway through, started playing on the old Candy Crush. So, but it is what it is. I don't expect everybody to be on the same brainwave as me when it comes to this topic, but as I say, I will try my best today to stay on topic. So for today's topic, I'm really going to try and utilise my knowledge in zoology and evolution. Obviously, people know I have a degree in zoology, and I've worked with animals for 12 years. I've had a lifelong fascination with dinosaurs and evolution. So I'm not saying I'm an expert, I'm far from it, far from a professor on this topic. There will be people who can put me to right, I'm sure, who watch these videos, but this is just my interpretation and opinions on this subject. First thing I want to do is talk about evolution and how that works. And when you look at the fossil record, that is proof. That is proof from the ground of evolution, and that it is, a fundamental part of our life, of our history, of the universe. And there's lots of examples of how animals have changed over time, albeit very gradually. When you look at us, obviously, us and the great apes, gorillas, chimpanzees, orangs, bonobos, we have a common ancestor. We don't know who that common ancestor is yet, but we do have ancestors, lesser versions of us that came before us. Homo erectus, Homo floresiensis, Homo megalanstar, these are all real because they're in the fossil record. And it shows how we have changed from an ape-like creature into what we are today. And then when you look at birds and reptiles, which are, animals I'm very familiar with, their common ancestor was the dinosaur. And we know, or we theorise, I should say, that some species of dinosaurs evolved into birds. And again, there's evidence in the fossil record. There's clear evidence today when you look at both species. Of course, birds have scaly legs, just like, you know, dinosaurs did, and reptiles of today. The defining characteristic of a reptile is that it's covered in scales. Birds lay eggs, just like reptiles, and just like dinosaurs, because again, there's evidence in the fossil record. And you know, when you look at a chicken and a velociraptor, you know, if you stretch your imagination, they're really not that much different. It's just that the bird, the chicken, whatever you want to example you want to use, is become more refined, less exaggerated. But it has taken a long time to get there. You know, we're talking not just millions of years, we're talking tens of millions of years. It's the time scale we cannot wrap our head around. So what about dragons? Well, let's just for the minute, just entertain the idea, if you can, that dragons were and are real creatures that have existed on planet Earth at some point in our history. An animal like that, let's look at its features. First off, it's enormous, potentially 60, 70 feet, maybe bigger. An animal like that needs a lot of food to keep itself going every day. It can fly, okay? That in itself is another very energy exertive adaptation that animals have. Animals that have wings, their wings are full of air hollows and air sacs, and if they get wet, it can be very damaging to them. A bird on a wet day that gets saturated can lose 15% of its body weight just to keep itself warm. Okay, extrapolate that by a factor of 60. You know what I mean? A dragon having wings would be a very costly adaptation to have. It's covered in scales, obviously very tough, very robust, like crocodiles, like snakes. But does that mean it was cold-blooded? Just like reptiles. Again, very energy exertive trait to have as an animal. And last but not least, it can breathe fire. To my knowledge, there is no animal on planet Earth alive today that can breathe fire. I'm not saying dragons weren't real, it's just something to think about. The point that I'm getting at here is that these very exaggerated predatory features that dragons have, and is seen all the way throughout the world in ancient history, they are impossible to evolve suddenly. Maybe it could happen over time, maybe over 100 million years, something like that might come to fruition. But it cannot happen suddenly. You cannot go from a large theropod dinosaur, which for those that don't know is like a T-Rex, like 2 legs, you know, predatory, carnivorous. A theropod dinosaur could not just suddenly go from being a robust 5-ton predator to having wings, an elongated body and breathing fire without some serious evolutionary modifications long term. Like I say, hundreds of millions of years, not just millions of years. It would take so long for something like that to be able to come to fruition. Having said all that though, it still does not change the fact that dragons are seen throughout the entire world, throughout all the ancient civilizations, leading all the way up to as recently as, you know, 700-800 years ago during the medieval times, where they were a part of their folklore. Earliest mention of dragons, to my knowledge, was the ancient Sumerians, who wrote about them around 5,000 years ago, and they spoke about great beasts in the sky that would breathe fire. Of course, the Chinese dynasty had a great reverence for the dragon and depicted them, you know, in various forms in their culture. And then, like I say, us as, you know, a God-fearing nation 800, 900 years ago, you know, dragons were a fixed part of our culture, often representing things that were satanic and demonic in their nature and intentions. So this is where the aliens come in. Now, I personally am a very big believer that all of the ancient civilizations, the Sumerians, ancient Egyptians, Mayans, Aztecs, Incas, even the Chinese dynasty, all had some sort of contact with extraterrestrials. And a lot of the great, you know, structures, pyramids, temples that we see all throughout the world have been, in part, constructed with the use and help of alien technology, which I know is a big ask. And I won't go too far down that rabbit hole. Having said that, I think aliens have been visiting this planet even longer before that. You know, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of years. And obviously these great structures that I'm alluding to are a few thousand years old. And, you know, you have to sort of say, for the sake of argument, if aliens have been travelling here from a faraway solar system, even if they had light speed technology, it would still take them a long time to get here. And if they're regular visitors to this planet, they'll have been keeping an eye on everything that's going on. And the way I like to look at it is, if we managed to reach a far out planet in the solar system, and there was no little green men, shall we say, what we would class as aliens, but of course anything by definition that is off planet is an alien. If we didn't find anything like that, the next thing we would turn our attention to would be the animals and plant life and things like that on the planet. So is that what aliens have been doing in the last few 100,000 years that they've been coming here before we sort of came onto the scene as an intelligent, you know, apex species? Were they looking at all the animals and thinking, well, you know, why don't we put this with that and see what we can get? Again, an advanced culture like theirs that has, you know, great space travel capabilities, you have to wonder if genetic engineering is too far out of their wheelhouse to be something that they would have in their repertoire. Obviously, genetic engineering, I suppose, is still a fairly new concept to us as a species. You know, it's been a prominent factor of science for about 30 years now. There's an entire film series about why genetic engineering is a bad idea, but I won't get into that. We're just talking about it in this sense today. But a culture that, you know, is a lot older than ours, like an alien species, perhaps they would have great capabilities to be able to genetically engineer whatever they wanted to. So back to dragons once again. As I was saying, dragons, to me, to my, you know, trained, untrained eye, they're quite reptilian in their appearance. You know, they're covered in scales, they have 4 legs, they have a long tail, sharp teeth, fairly reptilian traits. The animal that exists today that I would closely liken them to would be crocodiles and monitor lizards. Monitor lizards are things like Komodo dragons, which is, you know, an ironic name to have, really. Now, animals like that, crocodiles in particular, they're apex predators of their respective ecosystem. Nothing can challenge them apart from us, and even then it's an unfair advantage because we have weapons. But in a battle of brute strength, the one that's going to come out on top is the crocodile, or the Komodo dragon. They are perfect, minus one thing. Once they're out of the water, they're very sluggish. They don't move particularly well on land. Komodo dragons can obtain fast bursts of speed, but it's short-lived. What is the one way that an animal like that could improve? Get ready for it. You probably guessed it. Why don't we give it wings? What I'm trying to say is, we're aliens flying around all this time looking at all the different animals we have on this planet, and they're an intelligent species like us. They're very scientific. They want to create, they have a need to create. Of course they're going to start tampering with animals eventually. What if one day they were flying over, they saw crocodiles, they said, right, we'll take one of them and we'll give it wings. The type of wings that I think aliens may have been more inclined to have engineered onto a reptile. I don't think they were bird wings. Looking at them, they remind me, a dragon's wings remind me more of bat wings, looking at them. And it makes more sense as that. It's like I was saying earlier, animals with feathers, if they get saturated, it can really slow them down, whereas bats don't have that problem. Their wings, of course, will have tiny little hairs on them because they are a mammal, you know, they're a member of our own genus. So yeah, we're part of the way there to having our dragon. We've got a large reptile with bat wings. The only thing left then that's missing from the puzzle, of course, the fact that dragons, their most famous feature, they breathe fire. And again, to my knowledge, there is no animal on planet Earth that can do this. Why on earth would an animal need to breathe fire? What benefit could it have? I've talked about that a lot in this video, how animals have certain traits specific to them that make their life easier. You know, a chameleon, for example, doesn't move very well. You know, it's quite clumsy on its feet. How is it going to catch its food? Oh, I know. I'll evolve a ballistic tongue with a sticky proboscis on the end of it so that I don't have to chase my food. It will come to me and then I can just quickly catch it. You know, things like that. Animals evolve things for a purpose. What purpose does breathing fire have? What does fire do when you look at it? Of course, it's an element, it's a natural element. Apart from serious damage, the only true purpose I can think of for a fire naturally is to sort of wipe the slate clean. Fire will, you know, decimate an ecosystem in an extinction event so that nature can essentially start over again. That is the only benefit I see to an animal having fire. So having said all of that, what happened to the dragons? Where did they go? Again, we can't deny that they are an extremely prevalent part of our written history, of our folklore, of our mythology. What happened to them? It's not like Bigfoot, lake monsters and UFOs that are still seen today. Where did the dragons go? Is it just that they were just that? They weren't a literal creature, they were just figurative, and they represented man's internal struggle with fighting evil, whatever that is. Of course, it doesn't have a form, it's just an idea, it's just something that people do, that things, you know, things that happen are evil. Is that all that dragons ever really were? Look, I'm about to propose a very radical theory here, and you don't have to take it on board, you don't have to take my word as gospel. It's just something that I've thought about, and I don't know, if we're taking on board the argument that dragons were the product of alien and, you know, animal hybrid genetic engineering, and going back to what I said before, that they could breathe fire, is it not entirely out of the realm of possibility that aliens may have taken them off planet for their own use? Again, the breathing fire thing, in my opinion, the only use that fire has is to be able to cleanse an environment. What if it was being used for war? What if aliens were using dragons to wage war in other planets? What's going to stop a dragon? You know, another spaceship maybe? What's interesting is, of course, that, you know, we have, as our own species, have used animals in the past for war. You know, the 4th century, Persians used elephants to wage war instead of horses. And in World War II, you know, the Soviets used disease-bearing rats in an attempt to try and make the enemy poorly. You know, so an intelligent species using, albeit a lesser intelligent species for the purpose of war, is nothing new within us. What is to say that it couldn't be possible within another intelligent species, you know, somewhere out there in the universe? And they have the ultimate war weapon, a flying 60-foot long reptile type creature with extremely tough skin that can breathe fire. You know what I mean? That is unbeatable in a war type scenario, unless maybe something like a spaceship was going up against it. So there you have it. That is my take on what dragons are, if they were real, how they came to be, and where they are now. If they are real, I don't think they're on planet Earth anymore. I think they're somewhere far out in the universe. So yeah, not really been much of a video about aliens per se, because I'm still quite new to ufology. I'm still trying to sort of work out what I believe and, you know, what I don't believe, even though I shouldn't ever say I don't believe. Very open-minded on this channel to a lot of different ideas. So yeah, I'm going to wrap it up now. I'm going to get to my camp and get the fire going and chill out for a bit. If you've enjoyed this video, made it through to the end, give us a like, comment if you have an opinion as to what dragons are, if they have any link to UFOs and aliens at all. I'd love to know. Yeah, subscribe if you haven't, share it on your social media, and I'll see you all further on down the road. Bye bye.